My name is Linda Smith. I'm 29 years old, and I have a younger sister named Sarah, who is 23. This is the story of how our family fell apart, but it's also a story about how we started to heal again. Right now, I'm sitting at my desk at work, staring at my computer screen. It shows a list of bank transactions. No matter how many times I read the large amount of money that was taken out, I still can't believe it's real. My hands are shaking. I feel a mix of anger and sadness deep inside. On my desk is a family photo. In the picture, my parents, Sarah, and I are all smiling. That photo used to bring me comfort, but now it just makes me feel worse. I never thought our family would end up like this. On the outside, we seemed like a normal middle-class family. My dad, Peter, worked as a site supervisor for a local construction company. He was organized and skilled, so people at work trusted and respected him. My mom, Ashley, worked as an office assistant at an elementary school. She was active in the PTA and liked by many people in our neighborhood. We lived in a small house in the suburbs with our golden retriever, Cooper. On weekends, we went for family picnics, and during holidays, we traveled to nearby places for short vacations. It was the kind of life many families have. My dad enjoyed using the barbecue grill in our yard. He often invited neighbors over for small parties. My mom liked to bake apple pies, and whenever the sweet smell filled our home, it made us all feel warm and happy. But behind that happy image, there were always little things going on that we didn't talk about. Looking back, I think it all started when I was in elementary school. From a young age, I took on the role of the responsible older daughter. It felt natural for me, like something I was just meant to do. I was often chosen as the class leader and earned the trust of my teachers. I always finished my homework on time and got top marks on my tests. In middle school, I became the student council president and also the captain of the swimming team. We even won some district tournaments. When I was 16, I started working part-time at a fast food restaurant on weekends. I wanted to earn my own pocket money. The first thing I bought with my paycheck was a beautiful scarf for my mom's birthday. But her reaction surprised me. She said, "Thank you, but you didn't need to spend your money on this." Her words made me feel like there was a wall between us. On the other hand, Sarah was like the star of our family. She was outgoing, cheerful, and made friends easily. Her grades were just average, but her happy nature brought her lots of friends. Our house was always full of energy because her friends often came over. Our parents gave Sarah what I can only describe as too much love. They gave her almost everything she asked for. One thing I remember clearly is how different our birthdays were. Sarah always had big parties. The yard would be filled with balloons, and many of her classmates came to celebrate. There was a big homemade cake and piles of gifts. My birthdays, in comparison, were simple. I was often told, "You're older now," as if that meant I didn't need anything special. When I turned 13, I asked for a bright red bicycle. Many of my classmates were riding bikes to school, and I wanted one too. But my parents said it was too expensive and instead gave me study guides. 3 years later, when Sarah wanted the same kind of red bike, they bought it for her right away. "She's still young and needs a safe way to travel," they explained. I still clearly remember something that happened when I was 17. I had been saving money for over 7 months to buy a new gaming console. I worked extra hours on weekends, packed my own lunches to save money, and put in a lot of effort to reach my goal. When I told my parents about the gaming console I had saved up for, they replied casually, "Oh, we already bought that for Sarah last week. You can just share it with her." They said it like it was totally normal. 12-year-old Sarah, who had no idea how I felt, was super excited. She quickly took over the brand new console. Whenever I tried to use it, she would say, "I'm playing now, wait for your turn." In the end, the money I had worked so hard to save was put into a fund for my education instead. But strangely, I didn't feel angry at my parents back then. If anything, I thought those experiences made me stronger. I learned how good it felt to reach my goals through hard work, and I also understood the value of being financially independent. I did well in high school and later studied finance in college. My parents used part of my savings to help with my tuition, but they didn't pay for everything. So I earned scholarships and moved into a college dorm. I balanced part-time jobs with my studies and kept working toward my future. During college, I worked at the library and also tutored students on weekends. From early morning to late at night, I managed both my job and my studies in a non-stop routine. Still, I never lost my love for learning about finance. In my investment classes, I often got the best grades, and my professors would say, "You have a bright future ahead." While I was busy with my demanding life in college, Sarah, who is now in middle school, was doing great at home with all the support from our parents. Whenever I came home on weekends, the living room was full of Sarah's friends. The smell of Mom's fresh cookies and brownies filled the house, along with the sound of happy middle school girls laughing. One moment that really stuck with me was when Sarah joined the school drama club. She got the lead role in Snow White, which was going to be performed at the school festival. Our parents immediately signed her up for a professional acting class and spent a lot of money on her costume. Dad even took time off work to build the stage props, and Mom drove Sarah to her rehearsals every day. On weekends, she practiced Sarah's lines with her. If Sarah wanted to hang out at the mall with friends, Mom happily drove her and gave her plenty of money to spend. Her room slowly turned into something that looked like a mini clothing shop, full of new clothes and accessories. When it came to school, even if Sarah got low scores on tests, our parents didn't scold her. They would just say, "It's not a big deal." But when Sarah suggested a school fundraising project or joined local cleanup events, our parents proudly said, "We're so happy she cares about others." One time, when Sarah failed her math midterm and scored below passing marks, our parents quickly hired a private tutor to help her. When I offered to help Sarah with her studies, my parents kindly said no. "You're already busy with your own work, right?" they told me. Later, one of Dad's coworkers' kids started coming over twice a week to tutor Sarah. For Sarah's 14th birthday, our parents threw a huge party. The backyard was decorated with pink and white balloons, and there was a custom-made cake from a professional baker right in the middle of the table. They invited all her classmates, along with some friends she had met at her tutoring center. The gift table was full of expensive presents, including the newest smartphone and a fancy designer handbag, things I couldn't even dream of having. I watched the whole scene while taking a short break from working on a university project. My feelings were mixed. I loved my sister very much, but I couldn't ignore how different things were for us. Sarah stood there like a princess, glowing with joy and fully enjoying the love our parents gave her. She smiled so brightly, as if everything she received was simply normal. While I worked part-time at the library every weekend, Sarah was out watching movies with her friends or going shopping. When I saw her posts on social media, I would often think about how different my own middle school days were. It surprised me how two sisters, raised by the same parents, could have such completely different lives. After finishing college, I got a job as an analyst at a big investment bank. By the time I was 23, I was financially independent and living alone in a small apartment. Most days, I went to work at 8 o'clock in the morning and didn't come home until after 11 o'clock at night. But the good salary made it worth it. My job was to study new companies and write reports to help investors make smart choices. My bosses gave me high praise, and by my third year, they trusted me with big projects. Even on weekends, I went to training sessions and kept studying to earn special finance certificates. Meanwhile, Sarah had joined a local state university. She chose to study communications. Her college life looked like something out of a teen movie. She joined clubs, went to parties, and traveled to other countries during summer break, with our parents paying for everything. While I was building my own life from scratch, I tried my best to stay close with my family. I visited home once a month, ate meals with them, and listened to Sarah talk about her college life. Dad was still really into gardening, and Mom kept herself busy by helping out with local community work. On the outside, everything between us looked fine, but deep down, something didn't feel right. This quiet tension continued for years. Around that time, I started noticing a change in how my parents talked about my job. Before, they didn't seem very interested in my work. But suddenly, they began making comments I didn't expect. Whenever they asked about work, I shared updates honestly. I told them about my promotions and the awards I had received. But instead of being happy for me, they always replied with things like, "You're working so much, but when are you getting married?" At the same time, Sarah was having a tough time finding a job after college. Whenever she talked about how hard it was, Mom would comfort her with kind words like, "You're doing your best," or, "I know the perfect job is waiting for you." Looking back, I wonder if seeing Sarah struggle made my parents feel the need to bring me down a little. That spring, Sarah finally graduated from college and got a job at an event planning company. I was truly happy for her. To celebrate, I bought her the newest laptop she had wanted for a long time. It cost almost 4 months of my salary, but I wanted to give her something special to start her new life. Sarah was super excited and thankful for the gift. But my parents' reaction caught me off guard. They said, "You didn't need to buy something so expensive. Are you trying to show off?" Their words hurt me. I had given the gift from my heart, but they misunderstood my reason and made it sound negative. Then one day, I got a call from Mom. I was walking through the business district on a nice spring afternoon when I answered the phone. She sounded very excited. "Linda, I have wonderful news," she said cheerfully. "What happened?" I asked. "Sarah is engaged," she announced. I was shocked. I knew Sarah had a boyfriend, but I didn't know anything about them getting married. Mom went on to explain that the man worked at a local real estate company and that they had met through church. She was thrilled and said, "We've already prepared the perfect gift for her." "That's great," I replied politely. I didn't think much of it since it wasn't unusual for my parents to do something big for Sarah. Then came the part that froze me. "Yes," Mom continued, "we took $250,000 from your account using your debit card. It's for Sarah's wedding." When I heard those words, it felt like my whole world suddenly stopped. The warm spring air and the noise of the street around me faded away. What did you just say?" I asked, shocked. I couldn't believe what I had just heard. Standing in the middle of the busy office area, I felt my legs start to shake. "The money's already been spent," Mom said in a cheerful voice, like she was giving me good news. "We found the perfect wedding dress and already paid the deposit for the wedding hall. The planner said the date would get booked fast, so we made the decision right away." I didn't know what to say. Mom started listing how she had used my savings like it was no big deal, just like talking about the weather. She said, the dress was $10,000, the hall deposit was $8,000, and another $2,000 for the decorations. She kept going, doing the math out loud. Then she added, "I found your pin in the notebook in your desk drawer. It said, for emergencies." "And Sarah's wedding is an emergency, right?" Yes, I had written down my pin and hidden it in a drawer, only to use it in real emergencies, like an accident or a serious health issue. I never thought my parents would find it and use it without asking me. "Mom, this is illegal," I said, my voice shaking. "You used my money without asking me. That's a crime." I stopped walking. People passed me on the street, but I couldn't move. My head was spinning, and I could hardly breathe. "Oh, don't be so dramatic," Mom replied with a light laugh. That laugh hurt even more than her words. "We're family, aren't we?" she said. "A wedding only happens once. And anyway, everything's already paid for. If we cancel now, we'll lose even more money." I was completely shocked. Each word from her felt like a sharp stab to my heart. Trying to stay calm, I said, "This is wrong. Every penny must be returned." Then, before she could say anything else, I ended the call. This wasn't just about the money. It was about all the years of being treated unfairly. It was about my trust being broken. It felt like they didn't see me, like I didn't matter. After I hung up, I went into the restroom in my office and cried for what felt like forever. When I looked at myself in the mirror, I saw tears running down my cheeks. I looked completely broken. That $250,000 had taken me 4 years to save. I had worked long hours from early morning until late at night. I gave up weekends, skipped small comforts, and worked harder than ever to save that money. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept tossing and turning, replaying the conversation with Mom again and again in my head. My chest felt tight, like something heavy was pressing down on it. As I lay there, my eyes landed on the family photo hanging on the wall of my apartment. Memories of Christmas dinners, family trips, and birthday parties came rushing back like a slideshow. What once felt like happy times now felt sad and filled with bitterness. The next morning, just before I left for work, my phone rang. It was Dad. The sound of my phone ringing so early, just as the sun was rising, made my heart race. I hadn't even had my coffee yet. "Linda, I spoke to your mother," Dad said. His voice sounded colder than usual. In the background, I could hear the sound of the lawn mower. He never skipped his yard work, even when he was upset. "Why are you making such a big deal out of this?" he asked, like I was the one causing all the trouble. "Are you really saying the same thing as Mom?" I asked, shocked. I looked out my window and watched people rushing to work. "This is a crime," I said. "Using my money without asking me is illegal." "You're overreacting," Dad cut in, his voice sounding just like when he used to scold me as a kid. "We're family. You should support your sister." "Support," I replied, trying to stay calm. I already gave Sarah a laptop as a gift when she started her job. But that was my choice. It's not the same as taking my money without asking. I was on a crowded train and trying to keep my voice low so no one around me could hear. Still, my voice shook. "When did you become so cold?" Dad asked. His voice was filled with disappointment. His words felt like a sharp sting. "You weren't like this before. The Linda I knew wouldn't act this way." Something inside me broke. All the feelings I had pushed down for years came rushing out, like a dam bursting. "Dad, I've always worked hard on my own. You and Mom never helped me the way you helped Sarah. I've done everything by myself," I said, trying not to cry. "Are you really bringing up all that again?" he said, clearly annoyed. I could tell by his tone. Suddenly, the sound of the lawn mower stopped. "You need to stop comparing yourself to your sister." After he hung up, I couldn't stop the tears from falling. Before I even got to the office, I ran to the restroom to fix my makeup. The face looking back at me in the mirror looked tired and worn out. In that moment, it really hit me. My parents didn't understand how I felt at all. Later that afternoon, I called the bank. After going through the transaction history, it was clear. My parents had used my PIN to take out the money. I explained everything to the bank, and the staff spoke kindly. But they told me that since the correct PIN was used, it didn't count as unauthorized access. Still, I didn't want to give up. That weekend, after thinking long and hard, I decided to report the incident to the police. On my way to the state police station, I walked past a park where I used to go with my parents when I was a child. A photo from one of those days still hangs in their living room. The difference between those happy memories and what was happening now felt too painful to bear. This decision wasn't made quickly or out of anger. The night before, I had sat out on my apartment balcony, staring at the quiet city and the starry sky. I thought deeply about my life and the choices I had made. I realized this wasn't just about money, it was about self-respect. I wanted to be treated with fairness and dignity. As I got closer to the police station, I felt a wave of doubt. I paused at the steps, and my eyes landed on a cross on the church across the street. It looked like the same one at the church I used to go to with my parents when I was young. I stood there for a moment unsure. Then I took a deep breath and stepped forward. When I opened the heavy door, I found myself in a quiet reception area. A police officer in uniform looked at me kindly and asked, "What can I do for you?" Hearing those words gave me a small feeling of comfort. "I'd like to report that my family took money from my account without my permission," I said. My voice was shaking, but inside, I could feel a small strength growing. Inside the station, I explained everything to a young female officer. My hands were shaking from nervousness, but she listened carefully. Her face was serious, and she wrote down everything I said. She nodded from time to time and gave me a warm, understanding look. She told me, family-related money problems like this aren't rare. But that's exactly why it's important to take them seriously. Just because someone is family doesn't mean it's okay to break the law. The police treated my case seriously and said they would question my parents. As they wrote up the report, I sat on one of the hard chairs in the station, lost in thought. What would my parents say? How would Sarah react? What would happen to their reputation in the neighborhood? My mind filled with worry after worry. I got a call saying that a police car had arrived at my parents' house. Outside my window, the sun was going down, and the street lights were starting to turn on one by one. I imagined my parents in their living room, shocked to see a police officer at their door. Just thinking about it made my chest feel tight, but I reminded myself there was no going back now. After the police got involved, things moved quickly. My parents were questioned because they were suspected of fraud. The case ended up being handled in civil court. The court decided that my parents had to pay back the full $250,000 they had taken from my account without permission. They were very upset and fought back. "We don't have that kind of money. It's impossible to repay," they said, as if I was a cold-hearted daughter who didn't deserve their love. Dad, who was only a few years away from retiring, refused to take out any loans. Mom cried and said, "How could you do this to your own family?" But what really surprised me was how Sarah reacted. Even though she was busy getting ready for her wedding, she came to see me at my office. "Linda, I'm so sorry," she said, with tears in her eyes. "This all happened because of me." Sarah admitted that our parents were wrong and said she felt bad for being part of it without knowing. Her fiancé also understood the situation and said they would slowly help repay the money together. I was deeply touched by how honest and kind Sarah was. Even though I was still hurt by how unfairly I'd been treated for years, I knew that anger was meant for our parents, not for Sarah. "This isn't your fault, Sarah. It's about what Mom and Dad did," I told her. We hugged each other, talked about our feelings, and slowly started to rebuild the bond between us that had been broken for so long. But with my parents, things got worse. Even though they promised to pay the money back in monthly payments, they didn't keep their word. Instead, they began telling lies to relatives and neighbors, making me look like a heartless daughter and pretending to be the victims. In the end, I made a hard decision. I chose to cut ties with my parents. It wasn't easy, but I had to do it to protect my own peace and happiness. When I went back to their house to collect my things, Mom just stood quietly by the window on the second floor, watching me. Dad didn't say a word and acted like I wasn't there, staying busy with his yard work. The house, once full of warm memories, now felt cold and empty. It has now been 7 months since that day. On weekends, I often meet up with Sarah, and we've become much closer as sisters. She has helped explain things to our relatives and friends. Once they found out that our parents took my money without asking and didn't keep their promise to return it, many of them started to stay away from my parents. Right now, I'm going through legal steps to make sure the money is paid back. Once it's approved, actions like freezing their bank accounts will take place. At work, I've been promoted and given more important tasks. On my days off, I've started enjoying photography and have made some new friends through it. My relationship with my parents might never be fixed, but I believe I made the right decision. Sometimes, walking away from your own family is the first step toward a better life. I understand that now. When I walk near the neighborhood where I grew up, I still feel a little pain inside. But it's not the strong anger or deep sadness I used to feel. Now, it's more of a soft, quiet feeling, a small ache in my heart. We all have the right to choose our own path, even if it means saying goodbye to the people we once loved.